views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
And hello and welcome to Open, the one and only show that opens the Bronx and the rest of the world right to you. I'm your host, Daren Jaime. Today we'll update you on what's happening in and around our borough, as well as across New York City. Coming up on today's show, we go front and center with several issues. September is National Suicide Prevention Month, and we'll learn what services Visiting Nurse Service of New York is providing to those facing emotional and mental stress. Also, we'll learn about a not-for-profit organization delivering digital access to thousands of patients who are in need. Plus, we'll speak with the president and CEO of the Opportunity Network on how they're helping students from underrepresented communities. And then a little bit later on in the show, we'll discuss a low-cost program for CUNY students who need to improve their academic English language skills. And finally, back to school is, yes, around the corner. Around the corner for many. And so we're going to talk about the gear that you're going to need in order to enhance your learning experience. So stay tuned. We've got more on that a little bit later on in the show. Get ready because Open starts now. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Open, and I am Daren Jaime, and today is Wednesday, September 9th, and you're watching Open, the only live interactive program that brings the Bronx and New York City straight to your TV set. We also want to welcome our viewers on Manhattan Neighborhood Network as Open is broadcast live simultaneously on the MNN channel. We also encourage you to stay connected to us on all of our social media platforms at BronxNet Television. Well, a lot has certainly been going on through the course of this past week, and we want to take you through a few things with our Bronx updates. New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio reveals a back-to-school pledge for kids in this upcoming season. Our BronxNet reporter Kim and AiLun has the story and brings us the details.
With the beginning of the new school year just a few weeks away, Mayor Bill de Blasio announced a back-to-school pledge for families and educators.
This effort to get schools ready is moving forward every single day. We're throwing everything we got at it. And here is a pledge, putting this out today, back-to-school pledge. And it's a detailed list of all the things that are being done in every single school.
In an effort to prioritize safety, the pledge details an extensive list of mandatory precautions for New York City public schools. The list reveals personal protective equipment and cleaning supplies will be issued to all school locations. The New York City Department of Education is set to have a 30-day supply available at all times, with a hotline accessible to principals in need of an immediate restock.
Every school will have all the personal protective equipment needed, of course, for free, all the hand sanitizer needed for every classroom, all the masks. We want kids to come to school wearing face coverings, but they'll be there for free for any kid who doesn't have it every single day.
In addition to supplying schools with safety equipment, everyone will practice physical distancing, and a full-time nurse will be present in every public school building. To further protect students and staff, the DOE will encourage all employees to be tested monthly for COVID-19. De Blasio reveals the precautions come in an attempt to assure parents the city will provide a safe school environment.
Every parent, every New Yorker can see exactly what is being done and the level of comprehensive effort, layer upon layer, to make sure we will have the safest school year ever, because there's never been this much investment in all the health and safety measures.
The back-to-school pledge also addresses education concerns. The Department of Education ensures every student in remote or in blended education will be learning 5 days a week. Remote students will interact with teachers every day, and each student family will receive one-on-one engagement with teachers. The pledge leaves Mayor de Blasio hopeful for the beginning of the new school year.
We need to help our kids get back on track after everything they've been through. And I have absolute faith in the greatness of New York City public schools.
From September 16th to the 18th, all New York Public School students will be expected to reconnect remotely with their schools for a partial day instructional orientation. Classes are currently scheduled to begin September 21st. To view the Back to School pledge and to stay updated on NYC school reopening plans, visit the link below. Reporting for BronxNet, Kib and AiLun.
And thank you, Kibben. Moving now to state news. New York State Governor Andrew Cuomo has announced that he is reopening New York softly and slowly. Malls will be allowed to reopen with safety precautions. Meanwhile, indoor dining is still on hold as city officials struggle to plan on how the state will regulate the coronavirus spread. Our BronxNet reporter Ashley Tiffany brings us this story right now.
Governor Andrew Cuomo announced Thursday that New York City malls will be allowed to reopen with safety precautions, but indoor dining is still on hold as city officials struggle to ensure the state's regulation to control the coronavirus.
All state agencies have deployed investigators to do the compliance on the bars. We now open restaurants. That's going to complicate by the hundreds, if not thousands, the number of establishments.
Cuomo is facing backlash from the restaurant industry and city lawmakers that are ready to see indoor dining in the city. Councilmember Corey Johnson said in a statement, it's time to allow indoor dining in New York City with reduced capacity and clear guidance to ensure social distancing and safety. Summer is winding down, and they need to begin planning for the colder months.
If New York City can say this many police, NYPD, can be put on a task force to monitor the compliance, that's something that we can discuss.
Cuomo suggested the city could deploy NYPD to ensure compliance with safety guidelines, such as face coverings and capacity limits. This statement is followed by a lawsuit from restaurant owners seeking $2 billion in claims, alleging the state is violating their constitutional rights. This lawsuit was filed the same day New Jersey announced plans to allow indoor dining at 25% capacity. Cuomo stated that indoor dining is his decision to make. Reporting for BronxNet, Ashley Tiffany.
And thank you, Ashley. That's all the time we have for our Bronx updates. We want you to stay with us because we do have more Open and a great show coming up. We'll be right back when Open returns.
When taking public transportation, don't touch your phone. Carry hand sanitizer and use it immediately upon leaving the bus or train. Avoid touching your face. If someone is coughing or sneezing, move away. Wash your hands with soap and water as soon as possible. Limit contact with poles. If possible, avoid rush hour. Don't eat or drink on public transportation. Keep your bag off the floor or other surfaces. Avoid directly touching turnstiles. Stay up to date with the latest from your local health department and CDC.
And welcome back here to Open. September is Suicide Prevention Month, and suicide is the 10th leading cause of death overall in the United States. The COVID-19 pandemic has added intense emotional and mental stress to the lives of many people across the world, and the economy a significant source of stress, with people being laid off from jobs as well as unable to find employment. Grief for loved ones who've fallen ill or died as a result of COVID-19. Children may also be experiencing increased negative emotions such as stress, anxiety, fear, anger, frustration, and grief. And joining us to share a little bit more and provide some insight is a licensed clinical social worker and the associate director with Community Mental Health Services at VNSNY, Deirdre DeLeo. And Deirdre, good to have you.
Thanks for having me, Daren. Appreciate it. And such an important topic to talk about.
It is an important topic to talk about, and I think even more so with COVID-19 and us still trying to navigate. We've got reopening across New York City and really across the nation. People are still trying to struggle to put to get back to a sense of normalcy. But I know one of the things that we talk about in this is not only people being infected by the virus, but then the collateral damage it's caused. And I know that suicide is one of those. So give me a little bit about what you're hearing within the community with regards to suicide rates and what's going on now.
Sure. Good question. Thank you. So, we are all experiencing the same stress, even though we're all sheltering in place at home and we're alone, we're all in this together. And we're still in the midst of this pandemic. So we don't have all the numbers, but we do have this one very interesting CDC study that came out in June, where 1 in 4 people between the ages of 18 and 34 seriously considered suicide. And 11% of everyone that was surveyed during this 1 week in June reported having seriously thought about suicide in the past 30 months.
That's an amazing and alarming statistic. Have we seen numbers like this before, or do we attribute this mostly to the COVID-19 pandemic?
So this is higher than the normal rates of suicidal ideation in the general population, yes.
And so when we talk about suicide, I know that many times people are caught off guard. And when we watch and we hear, whether it's celebrities or people that we may know, who actually take their life by suicide, the first thing that always happens is there's this great realm of surprise and shock, because for many people, sometimes we don't see it coming. So give us a little bit about what are some of those warning signs that the average person can look out for when you have a situation such as suicide as a potential.
Sure. So there are both verbal and nonverbal signs that someone is thinking about suicide. The easiest to spot is when someone's making statements, people are better off without me. I don't know why I'm living. I have nothing to live for. I can't go on anymore. Or they may say things such as, things are just never going to get better. Everything's hopeless. And hopelessness is the #1 indicator that someone is having suicidal ideation. You want to also pay attention. Does the person have a previous history of suicide attempts? That actually increases their risk. Someone who was very outgoing, very involved in life, and is now very withdrawn and isolated. They're keeping to themselves more. They're canceling on friends or plans. Harder to tell during COVID, but maybe somebody who would be making phone calls or doing video chats as we are, and is now starting to stop doing that. Someone who's giving away things that they hold very dear because they want to make sure that somebody else is going to value them when they're gone. A change in sleep or eating. And that could be either way. Somebody could be sleeping more than normal, or they could be sleeping less than normal. So just looking out for, people acting very differently. High-risk behaviors, doing things recklessly. I always talk about, that young adult who just steps out into traffic without looking because they don't care if they get hit by a car. These are the things that we can do. And there's 3 easy steps to take to help someone, because we can all save a life.
And I'm, no problem. It's probably a little technical breakup on this side too, but when you talk about those persons who are actually taking their life and suicide, you've got other people on the other side who are saying, listen, I want to take some steps to help someone. If you any of those categories that you've actually named, and you said a few of them, if a person is observing a loved one or a friend who are actually doing this, what should be their course of action when this happens?
So if everybody watching can remember, there's 3 very simple steps that they can do. And I'll just go through the steps and then I'll talk about them if that's okay. So
Certainly.
The steps are ask, listen, and get help. So if you're talking with a loved one, either in person or on the phone or via video, and you have any concerns that that person is thinking about ending their life, and it could be just as simple as, hey, I'm worried about you. You say these things. Are you thinking about killing yourself or committing suicide, or any of the words that's comfortable for you to use? And then when that person answers, listen, it's very difficult and it's scary when you ask that question, to have that person that you're talking to say, yes, I'm having those thoughts. But let that person talk. That's their experience. Don't try to tell them it's going to get better. Don't try to minimize it for them. just simply listen. They're taking a big risk, and they're probably also very relieved that somebody's asked them. They're living with these thoughts. And then the last step is get help. And it could be something as easy as doing a 3-way call with NYC Well, which is the 24-hour hotline for mental health and substance abuse issues here in New York City. And that number is 888-692-9355. And I highly recommend that when you're making that phone call with someone, to stay on the phone with them for the whole time, because you never know, that person might have that brave moment and tell you they're having those thoughts. But then when they're on the phone with the counselor, they may actually disconnect the call before giving it any of their information. And NYC Well can then do a couple of different things. They'll speak to that person, they'll do a further assessment of the suicide risk, and they can make referrals. They can make referrals to community resources, especially to mobile crisis teams, which could be really helpful in this day and age.
You brought up mobile crisis teams, and actually that was my next question. You do have a mobile crisis unit, and I know that goes out to really help those in need. Give us a little bit about the mobile crisis unit and the work that it does in the community.
Sure. Our mobile crisis teams are trained mental health professionals that respond to emotional crises in people's homes. Or if that person wants to meet with somebody in the community, we can meet with them in a safe place in the community. Right now during COVID, because we are taking the pandemic extremely seriously, we're trying to do as much telephonic assessment first. So we would reach out to that person by telephone, talk to them about how they're feeling. We do a complete risk assessment with them, and then we would link them to community services. And much like I was saying for the get help step, we stay with them until they connect to services. So if somebody needs to go to an outpatient appointment, we would help them do that. If someone needs to get to an emergency room, we would go with them to the emergency room.
And give us, before we leave, again, you said those 3 steps, because we want to make sure there's awareness out there. If there's somebody out there that's watching this morning and they want to find out more about how they could actually help, since this is Suicide Awareness Month, please give us those 3 steps again, so that way somebody can be well informed.
Sure. So I just want to say that this is a public health concern, and we can all save a life. So the steps are very simple. Ask somebody if they're having thoughts of wanting to die or kill themselves. Listen to what they say, and then help them get help and stay with them while they're getting it.
Well, we want to thank you so much for sharing with us, Deidre, as we leave it here on this particular segment talking about suicide awareness. Definitely very important. And as we said in the lead, suicide is the 10th leading cause of death in the United States. And that's a pretty alarming number. But thank you for the work that you're doing.
Thank you for having us, and thank you for talking about this very important topic. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and we will. Of course, we'll revisit it before the end of the month, or the month is out again. A very important topic, as we said, if it's the 10th leading cause of death in the United States, I think that we should do our due diligence in making sure that people are aware. Now, for more information, we do encourage you, please visit the website so that you can get all the information when it comes to suicide awareness and suicide prevention. The website, vnsny.org. Now, if you want to pick up the phone and call, what you can do is you can call them at 1-800-675-0391. Again, that number, 1-800-675-0391. We encourage you, please don't go anywhere. We do have more open coming up right after this.
We built a media network for you.
BronxNet TV.
Come learn in your new state-of-the-art studios at Lehman College.
At Mercy College.
And coming soon to the South Bronx in the Hub.
Inspire with your stories, culture, history.
Your Bronx on BronxNet.
Engage with us.
Connect with us at your channels and at BronxNet.tv.
Learn, engage, inspire. BronxNet TV.
From the Bronx
to the world.
BronxNet.
And welcome back. The COVID-19 pandemic has forced many Americans to have to stay at home. However, many elderly patients actually suffer from chronic conditions and also need continuous care. To stay connected to their physicians, elderly people need devices to also video chat. Telehealth Access for Seniors is a student-led not-for-profit collecting video-enabled smart devices for seniors and low-income individuals to use for telehealth appointments during the COVID-19 pandemic. Joining us to share a little bit more is the National Recruitment Coordinator and the New York lead for telehealth access for seniors, Abe Baker Butler. And Abe, good to have you.
Thanks so much for having me, Daren. Excited to be here.
And when I think about the work that you guys do, it came at a good time. I mean, in March, we were really going front and center with this pandemic, and a lot of people were really concerned about seniors being that most vulnerable population. But you were able to bridge the gap between seniors and health.
For sure. Our organization started out in March as the idea of two of our founders, whose parents were doctors, and their parents were seeing, hey, we have all these patients with chronic conditions who really shouldn't be leaving their homes right now when there's infectious disease spreading. But we can't engage in telehealth, even where it would be helpful, because they don't have the devices they need. And so they said, well, let's get some friends together, let's figure it out. And from that, telehealth was born. And today we're a group of 325 volunteers in 26 states across the country, working with 92 clinics to distribute devices to enable telehealth.
So give me a little bit about how you get the devices. You're getting the devices out there, you're getting them to seniors. Talk about first about where do you get the devices from?
So we get the devices from a variety of different sources. We have something that we call the Telehealth Master Guide, which is all about going about collecting devices. We work with Rotary clubs, we work with schools, we work with businesses, we post on Facebook, we post on Patch, Nextdoor, we write letters to newspapers. It's really a whole combination of things, and together they have yielded 2,000 devices for us that we've been able to distribute to low-income patients in need.
And when we talk about distributing these devices, they get to go out to seniors. And how are you locating the seniors for these devices to be matched up with?
So we partner with medical providers who we believe have the best knowledge to identify the seniors most in need of these devices. So for example, in the Bronx, we partner with the Union Community Health Clinic. And with Union, we collect the devices, we give the devices to Union, and then we leave it up to Union to determine who's most in need and who could most benefit from the devices. And we found a lot of success with that model at the Union Clinic and across the country.
Talk about the impact that you guys have been making with this since March, and that reach that you're talking about, because the numbers that you're stating have had significant increase over the course of the past few months.
For sure, it's been amazing and extremely gratifying to see how much we've been able to make an impact. And we've received so many testimonials from medical providers and others, from patients who have testified to how much of a difference these devices have made in their lives. And something that we've learned over the course of this process is that it's not just about official telehealth with doctors. It's also about mental health. It's also about loneliness. It's also about connecting with family and friends and connecting with community virtually. So we've really been able to make a major impact, and that's been extremely gratifying for all of us in the organization.
And when we talk about connection, it's very important for seniors to be connected. Disconnecting is what you hear a lot of them talk about. They're already dealing with isolation before COVID-19. And now the connection. Talk about the importance of that and how you guys feel like bridging that gap is so important.
I mean, I think we have a responsibility to do whatever we can in general in life to help people out when they're in need. And I think the reason we started telehealth access for seniors is because we saw that as young people, we were connected. We knew people who could donate devices. We knew how to use these devices. And so we said, hey, we can help give this gift of connection to someone else. And just on that topic a little bit more, we don't just donate the devices. We also help seniors learn how to use them. We have a whole set of guides on things ranging from how to order pharmacy and grocery deliveries to, how to use FaceTime and how to set up your device. And then we also have a team that does live tech support with seniors who need it. So we've really been trying to give that gift of connection that we're lucky enough to have as young people to seniors in need.
Yeah. What's it been like on the part of seniors who get this young, technologically savvy crew coming and helping them out with what they need?
So they've been pretty excited. And actually, it's interesting. We found that we have a lot more success, our tech support team, with seniors than their own children. I think it's because it's a different sort of relationship with someone out on the tech support team versus your own child who you may get more frustrated with in the tech learning process. The seniors have expressed such gratitude. Our tech support team finds it's the most meaningful part of their work. So it's really been great.
Yeah. And so as we go about finding seniors, you say you get connected to medical, you get connected to medical organizations. Are you still looking for more medical organizations to partner with and more seniors to reach?
100%. This work is not over. We're still going strong. We're looking for more medical providers to partner with. We're looking for people who are willing to donate devices, and we're looking for people who are willing to donate to our GoFundMe. People can learn more about how they can help by going to telehealthforseniors.org and clicking the donate tab. But yes, we are very much still expanding. We're very much looking for people to help us continue fulfilling the telehealth need until every senior has the resources they need to engage in telemedicine.
Yeah. And so for people who want to be connected, maybe I'm a young person, say, listen, this is my give back. I want to be a part of this. How do I get involved? How do I get engaged with your organization?
So yeah, we are definitely looking for new volunteers. We would love to have more people join our organization because we are only as good as the volunteers that we have. So if you know someone who's interested in volunteering, our volunteer opportunities are open to all students. You can ask them to email me at abe.baker-butler@telehealthforseniors.org. And if you're an adult who's interested in supporting our work, please visit our website at telehealthforseniors.org.
And are you surprised by the fact of, since March, the numbers that you've had? I mean, we talked about what you started out with, starting the organization in March, and now here you are with tremendous growth and tremendous partners.
It's really been amazing. So our goal was half of 2,000. We were expecting to collect, 1,000 devices, even as early as the beginning of the summer. But it's really grown exponentially, and we are extremely thankful for that. Thankful that we've been able to impact 2,000 seniors and make their lives a little bit better during this pandemic.
Yeah. And Father, before we go, you get the final word in terms of giving people more information about how they can stay connected to you. I'll give something at the end, but you can give it right now too as well.
So we greatly appreciate if you stay connected with us. Please like us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, even LinkedIn at Telehealth Access for Seniors. If you're interested in supporting our work or learning more about what we do, please visit telehealthforseniors.org. And if you're a medical provider who thinks that you have a population of low-income elderly patients who could benefit from devices for telehealth, please do email us as well. So there are a number of ways to get involved, and I highly recommend checking them out at telehealthforseniors.org.
Well, Abe, I want to thank you so much for coming and sharing with us and being with us here on Open. Great work that you're doing, Telehealth for Seniors. And as we said, all you got to do is stay connected to them on Facebook and Instagram at Telehealth Access for Seniors. We do have more show. We want you to stay with us. Open is continuing right after this. And welcome back. The Opportunity Network is a not-for-profit organization that's serving individualized college guidance to help students from underrepresented communities navigate and thrive in the college landscape and professional world. The Opportunity Network ignites the drive, curiosity, and agency of underrepresented students on their paths to and through college and into thriving careers powered by our commitment to access and community. And joining us now to share a little bit more is the president and CEO of the Opportunity Network. We're pleased to be joined by AiLun. And AiLun, good to have you.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thank you. So introduce us, if you will, to the Opportunity Network for those who don't know.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think you captured it really well. And what we're really about is making sure every first generation student going to college and every young person of color has the agency, the skills, and the training to pursue every single career pathway that matches their ambitions. And it's always grounded in their sense of agency and their decision making. And so that's really what we do. We were born and raised in New York City 17 years ago, and we've now taken our work national in 18 cities across the United States through capacity building, supporting other organizations and high schools to do kind of versions of what we do here in New York City.
Yeah. So walk us through a little bit about what you do in New York City. I know here in New York, you got about 1,000 students that you're actually working with.
Yep, that's right. So, pre-COVID, students would come to us, and now we operate virtually. But how we operate is still the same. We're after school, out of school program, and so we meet with our young people every day after school ends for about 2 hours in cohort settings, and we start working with them the summer after 10th grade, all the way through college graduation. And in that after school, out of school setting, we work with them on what we call career fluency. And career fluency covers college guidance, transition and success, professional and workplace skills, networks and social capital, which is a really unique piece to OpNet's work. And then the last piece around career, as many career options as possible that they should be able to pursue.
Right. And so when we talk about pursuing options, sometimes it's hard to pursue those options because there's what we call the educational disparities. Sometimes the fact of in communities of color, in low-income neighborhoods, it is hard to really thrive educationally. But I know that you do some great work in trying to bridge the gap of those educational disparities.
Yes, and I think it's important that we do work from both the individual student readiness side as well as the institutional readiness side. And so when we talk about getting our young people ready, it's about their developmental kind of appropriate skill building and knowledge building and awareness building. But it's also about us as an organization, Opportunity Network, talking to institutions like higher ed institutions and employers and saying, how are you getting ready for talent of color? How are you getting ready to actually welcome our young people and changing some of your practices so the burden doesn't only fall on our young people, right? And getting ready.
Right.
And so oftentimes, young people of color have to exchange their identities for a seat at the table. And so we're saying that is not good enough. And so what you have to do as institutions is actually change your practices and hire differently, groom differently, and also run admissions differently and help them provide support and resources differently so that every young person can be seen as their fullest selves.
Yeah, and given today's culture, given today's climate, when you talk about adjusting it, institutions having to make those kind of adjustments, what are you sensing from being on the inside? Do you find that institutions are becoming more and more now more flexible, given the fact of the culture, the climate that we're presently living in?
I think there's a desire to be more flexible. I'm not sure if everybody is entirely flexible yet, but the desire and the intention is there. And we know that intention is not equal to impact. And so that means it's important for institutions to build their organizational muscle. And OpNet is included. We are examining our own practices to understand how do we hire, how do we groom, how do we promote, and then how do we kind of welcome people into our space. And so because we are an organization that's actively doing that, we can also do that with corporations, employers, and higher ed institutions and include them in a conversation as peers who are at the institutional level in actually building that muscle. And that requires all of us to learn publicly. It requires us to do more than writing statements. And it requires us to actually say, hey, when I welcome a young person into my space, whether it's a learning space or a workplace, what are the things I'm willing to adjust to make sure that young person has the best experience as opposed to just relying on that young person to adjust to my standards.
Yeah. I want to ask you a little bit about internship experiences and talk to me about how training and basically internship experiences could actually help, put people on that path for proper career success. I mean, we have a station where we give interns an opportunity to work behind the camera, in front of the camera, and it's definitely helped them to propel into larger and more popular career paths. But talk to us about your perspective on the types of training and internship experiences that actually address these.
Yeah, so internships is a very interesting capsule of a number of things, right? And so it's both about applying your learning in a real life context, right? And so that's what an internship does. What it also does, it helps a young person build, expand, and mobilize their social capital and network. Not only do they have something to offer into that space, in kind of enriching that space of that employer, but they themselves are expanding their network, right? And so we know many jobs are in the hidden job market. You find out through your networks, right? And so that's really, there's currency embedded in those relationships, and internships is one of the gateways to that social capital and to that currency. And then the other piece is it's the exposure, it's the learning piece, right? It's the applied piece, but then it's also what's next. It's for an internship, it's just as good to know that you don't ever want to do that job again as it is for you to know it is actually something you want to continue to pursue further, right? It helps refine a young person's understanding of what's available to them and how they can keep honing their skill sets. And so internships oftentimes can be almost a gatekeeper to the next opportunity, right? And so we shouldn't treat that as such, and we shouldn't hoard internships only for the people that we know. And we actually have to democratize access in a different way. And so AFNet uses our institutional leverage to open up as many opportunities to our students as possible, and they get to choose the type of internship they want to participate in.
Talk to us about why you feel this program, I should say, is so successful and why it makes the difference.
I think one of the reasons it's successful is because there's a mutual kind of understanding for what we're putting in together, right, as a relationship. So the young person actually wants to be a part of our program for 6 to 8 years. And that's a long time when you're 15 or 16 trying to make a decision, right? And so that's a really important thing. And it's also important that the families and the guardians and the communities are also supportive of that decision. And then the other piece is we place a lot of emphasis on relationship building and holistic relationship building. So we don't want to treat our interactions with our students as transactions. And then that's why it's also a longitudinal program. And so I think it's successful because we focus on the whole student, and we might have our core competencies around post-secondary, college, and career, but we want to make sure our young people can come to us exactly as they are, right, in their full selves. And we have a wellness support team, and we have, curriculum teams. We have all sorts of teams that can create the wraparound experience for our young people to feel supported throughout that entire journey. So it's really a both, right? That they want to be a part of our community for 6 years, and that we are doing our job in earning and sustaining their trust that we're going to support them for the 6 years.
AiLun, thank you so much for sharing with us about the Opportunity Network. And so we thank you for being with us here on Open.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Great to have you. And listen, we've got more shows, so stay with us. Don't go anywhere. Open will return right after this.
It looks bleak. It feels bleak. But the city isn't shut down because our public services keep working. In spite of, and in the face of, the dangers, we can count on them. And to keep them working and funded, now and in the future, we need to be counted. Self-respond now to the 2020 census at my2020census.gov.
And thank you for staying with us. Well, the CUNY Language Immersion program, better known as an intensive English as a second language program for CUNY students who need to improve their academic language skills. CLIP is a content-based program where students learn English by studying topics in American history, literature, environmental studies, and more. And the question is, how has the organization adapted its services, particularly during the COVID-19 pandemic? Well, joining us to share a little bit more is the Associate Director of the CUNY Language Immersion Program at Bronx Community College. We've got Jason Davis, and then also the International Wealth Advisor at Merrill Lynch Bank of America, Liz Rosado. And we thank you both for joining us here on Open.
Thank you very much for having us today. Thank you. Good morning. And as you mentioned, yes, it has been a little challenging working online using the different platforms during the COVID pandemic. But we are Zooming in with our students daily. Students work on Zoom, and they work on the same curriculum-based curricula that they would use during the regular semester. The instructors have used the breakout room so that students can work in groups. They've also been able to do their independent projects on Zoom, and they've done PowerPoint presentations and worked in literacy circles. And so they have been doing very well on Zoom. They submit their assignments also online, and their essays are looked at with comments and sent back to the students, and then they upload it again to the faculty member.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk a little bit about your involvement with the program.
Yes, thank you. I was a student at the program a few years ago, and for me, the transition from being into not having the tools to start college itself guided me to go into the program. And basically, I did a few semesters, and what it helped me the most was the transition from going into just having certain words in the language to going to being able to read and write coherently, then to go into college life. The fact that the program is on campus also allows you to start the transition into the environment, the school environment. So it's been a great journey, and obviously starting there was actually great for me. So.
Yeah. And Jason, talk a little bit about this, because I believe, if I'm correct, students actually spend about 25 hours a week in the program. Walk us through exactly what they get as they participate in CLIP.
Thank you very much. So actually it's 25 content hours per week. We have a morning session that's from 9 to 3 and an evening session that's from 5 to 10. And during those 5 hours per day, students do work on reading, writing, speaking, and listening. But since it is a college preparatory program, the large focus is on the writing and on the reading. So they do a lot of reading, vocabulary development, they go over grammar, at all the levels. And when we are on campus, we have 1 hour a day in the computer lab where they improve their technological skills and start working on research papers. Even at the lowest level, they are taught how to cite sources and collect information. Students did not have the technology at home. So with the assistance of the college and the CUNY central office, we were able to get them laptops and Chromebooks. Students also needed assistance with getting Wi-Fi. And so we were able to do that as well. Now, we do have lab technicians on staff, and they have Zoomed in with students who needed to learn how to use the technology. Now, most of our students are very enthusiastic and eager. They want to improve their language skills so that they can enroll in college and pursue their academic careers.
Talk to us about how the program really made a difference in your life.
Going back to what Jason just mentioned, part of the immersion, not only in the academics, my experience was learning through the ecosystem and bird watching. I got to visit Central Park and not only observe, but then being able to transcribe what I was experiencing. That helped me a lot, not only in school, but after in my career. It's just being able to observe and to be able to communicate what I'm observing and what I'm feeling and being coherent about it. So it was a great experience.
Mm-hmm. And Jason, for people who are watching right now saying, listen, this may be something I can get myself being involved in. How can a student be a part of the program? What's the criteria?
Sure. So a student has to apply to one of the CUNY colleges and get a letter of acceptance, and they have to be designated that they're an ESL student. So if they're designated as ESL and they've been accepted to the college, then they can enroll in one of the CLIP programs.
And has it been tremendously hard talking about ESL, and you've got this whole situation right now of COVID where we're having to pivot virtually and still trying to navigate virtually? How hard has it been for you, given the fact that ESL can sometimes be one of the most challenging subjects, particularly for people who English is not their strength?
Right. So one of the challenges that we faced this semester in particular is getting Chromebooks and laptops out to them, but we were successful in doing that. Also, many of them did not know how to use the technology, so we had to also have our lab techs Zoom in with them and go over how to use the devices. So although it's been a challenge, students have been very enthusiastic and eager, and they've tried really hard to keep up with the coursework, and the lab techs have been very patient and supportive of the students. So it has worked. With a few bumps, it has worked successfully.
Luz, for what advice would you give to students who take part in this program? Somebody who says, listen, this sounds like something I want to be involved in. As one who's gone through it, what advice do you give them?
At the beginning of the process, college seems to be daunting, especially when language is a challenge. And I would say the program would actually ease you into the process of becoming a college student. It could seem like you can't accomplish it or you can't go through. And I think the fact that you start with such a strong help and people like Jason and the teachers there to have your back and guide you through what you need to get into college. I think it's the best way to start, because it actually helps you get through what the college experience is since the beginning.
Final thoughts. What would you say to somebody who wants to be a participant, and what do you say are the benefits of the CLIP program for them?
Well, I've been here since 1996,
Wow.
since the program started. It's a terrific program. I've worked with very talented instructors who, our students have come back and they even said that what we taught them in CLIP gave them a foundation for college and for graduate school, because when they moved on, the instructors did not have time to spend with them as we do at CLIP. It's 25 contact hours, as we both mentioned before. So they get a lot of individual attention, they get a lot of help, and they learn how to do research, how to study. They develop strategies to do well in school, to the point that the college professors come to our program and they recruit students from our program because they know that they know how to put a portfolio together, they know how to study, and they know how to be punctual, and they're responsible. And many of our students have gone on. We have a student in medical school. At present, we have a CLIP student who is now teaching in our program. Others have become policemen. And I also want to say that some of our students, even though English is not their first language, they have graduated with honors from BCC. They have received scholarships to study in Italy, India, and Puerto Rico. So we give them a very good foundation, and we give them opportunities that they may explore later, which many of them do.
All righty. Well, Jason, we're going to leave it there. Liz, thank you so much for being with us. If you want more information on the CLIP program, bcc.cuny.edu. We are taking a quick break, and when we return, we've got more open coming up right after this.
Who's most at risk for coronavirus? People over 65, people with underlying medical conditions like heart disease, chronic lung disease, asthma, diabetes, people undergoing cancer treatment, and people with weakened immune systems. What should you do if you or a loved one is at higher risk? Avoid close contact with people. Avoid crowds. Stay home if you can. Wash your hands frequently. Learn more ways to protect yourself and others at coronavirus.gov.
And welcome back here to Open. Back to school learning in 2020 may be really about enabling learning from home than in the classroom. Millions of students will return to their studies this year via remote learning, creating plenty of challenges. And one challenge for sure, technology. Distance learning is not an option for most students unless they have a laptop or tablet. Gadgets such as headphones, webcams, monitors, docks, as well as printers are going to have to be a must-have for many students who are actually going to have to return to home-based learning. Well, the question is, what are proper gears that you should have if we're getting back to school? What's the proper technology? What are the things you need to know for this back to school in order to have a productive and a good new year? Well, joining us now to tell a bit more about this is the editor-in-chief at Laptop Magazine, Sherri L. Smith. And Sherri, good to have you.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having.
And I want to get right at it because, listen, you know, we are in the midst of trying to make some last minute adjustments. I just happened to be in the Apple store, or trying to get into the Apple store the other day to get a piece of equipment for my computer. But what I noticed was like the lines were literally out because everybody was doing back to school. So talk to us a little bit about back to school now, and what are some of the popular things that we're hearing people having to do in order to, you know, get with this hybrid and or virtual classroom?
Absolutely. So this is an unprecedented time in I've never seen a back to school like this. So now with the coronavirus still going on, parents are being given the choice to, in most cases, to either do remote learning where your child just stays home and learn from home, or a hybrid where they go in some days and they stay home some days. Either way, you're going to need a laptop, and you're going to need a reliable one. And depending on how old your child is, like I would recommend a Chromebook. They are durable, they have just enough power, and most schools are using some form of a Google platform to do virtual learning. So the only problem with this is that now that everybody has to do remote learning, Chromebooks are just flying off the shelves. So you have, like, if you don't have one, you really have to be on the hunt, because as soon as they're coming into stock, they're just selling out. So it's becoming a big problem with quantity, and the laptop manufacturers are having a hard time catching up because their supply chain was already disrupted by COVID. So it's becoming a bit of a problem. Now, for older students who maybe don't have a huge budget, I'd recommend the Acer Swift 5, but you've got to get it with the AMD processor and graphics. It cost about $650 if I can remember off the top of my head, and we've put it in test against some of our favorite flagship laptops that are much more expensive, like the Dell XPS 13, the MacBook Pro 13-inch, and it was surprising. Like it really held its own in terms of performance and battery life, and it's not a bad looking machine.
Mm-hmm. Well, tell me, because it's for parents. I mean, it's the hard, they're stuck. And for many parents, they're just basically a little technologically savvy. And a lot of them are asking the questions, how do I get my child the best necessary thing for a time such as this, given the fact that, we don't know when this is going to be over, and I want to be able to prepare my child for the long run. So you're saying probably those Chromebooks are going to be the best thing. What are some of the other things that a parent should probably have in their toolkit to navigate through this season?
I would recommend looking into some online tutoring sessions, just in case, because I don't have children, but I'm hearing that Common Core math is just it's just crazy. So I would look into some online tutoring classes. I would look into perhaps a webcam so your child can really see the audience, see the teacher, and be seen. Maybe a little, if you have the space, because I know we are all in New York and space is always at a premium. If you have the space, a little desk so your child can have their own work area, so it's not monopolizing the kitchen or wherever your kid has been doing their remote learning since Corona first hit. Like, it just gives a sense of normalcy to the whole thing. I guess I'm going to say, because okay, I'm going to my desk, I'm going to school, and it just, if you also are working from home, it gives a little space away from you and your child. Your child can do what they need to do, and you can do what you need to do.
Give me this, child's going to be home. We understand that there's going to be the laptop that's going to be necessary, be learning virtually, but then kids are going to want to have some recreation. They're going to want to have some fun. So I know a lot of people are talking about what's coming around the corner. And what's coming around the corner on the fun side, we're talking about the Xbox Series X, just a few months away. Give us that. And then also possibly the PS5.
Yes, so we are about to enter a new console generation, the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5. We know that they are launching sometime in November. We don't know pricing yet, which is it's frustrating at this point, because it's like, how much money should you be putting aside? There are tons of rumors that they are going. The most reasonable rumor that I think I've heard is that the digital version of the PlayStation 5, and digital, by digital I mean that it's not going to take any physical discs, is going to be $399, and then the regular version is going to be $499. And I'm hearing about the same prices for the Xbox Series X, because there's rumored to be, not totally confirmed, a Xbox Series S, which is going to be the cheaper version of the equipment. So that they're about the same price, but we don't have a firm confirmation of prices yet. What we do know is that both consoles will be launching in November.
Kind of like we'll be ready for Black Friday. Is that the whole thing we're hearing?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Tis that time of year, when something new is going to come out and it's going to get people out and get them out and shopping. I don't know if do we anticipate, let's put it like this, do we anticipate long lines in stores based on what you see coming out, or is this going to be more of we're just going to order this online?
I think that it's going to be we're going to order this online, or at least big box retailers like Best Buy and PC Richards and things in Walmart. A lot of those stores are doing curbside pickup. So you do the order online, you go to your car, you stay socially distant. The person, a representative from the store comes out and puts the stuff in your car, and you go about your merry way. But now that New York is kind of sort of opening back up, I could see long lines, but I really, really don't expect it.
Well, we got one more thing that I want to talk about, particularly that's that phone situation. A lot of people are getting excited, especially those who are iPhone users, about the potential of the iPhone 12 versus the Pixel 5 Samsung Galaxy Note Ultra. That's a conversation, a debate that's being had right now. Give us a little bit about what you know about the iPhone 12 and what's that coming out.
I'm expecting to get that Apple invite for the virtual event sooner than later. There's been so much said about it. It's going to have an OLED display. It's going to run 5G. There's going to be many variations of the phone. So supposedly, so the entry level model is going to be just the iPhone 12, and it's going to be about 5.4 inches, and it's going to start at $649, and it's only going to have 2 cameras. But that's, only 2 cameras. We live in a world where you can say your phone is only going to have 2 cameras.
Right. First of all, just to even think about, listen, we're talking about 2 cameras. I'm like, listen, back in the day, we had the flip. Who's thinking about a camera? But now, how many cameras my phone has? 2. All right, yeah.
Yeah, so only 2 cameras. With the top model, the iPhone 12 Pro Max, that's going to have a 6.7-inch screen, and it's going to have an OLED screen, of course, and it will have 3 cameras plus LiDAR. Now, LiDAR is it's not a new technology, but it's a burgeoning technology that basically will allow your phone to do augmented reality. And for those who aren't familiar with augmented reality, the best example I could possibly give you right now is Pokemon Go. So if you're still playing that, there's an AR mode where it switches over to the real world, and they put the Pokemon in the scene, and you're trying to throw Pokeballs at it, and it's in your kitchen trying to hide. But the LiDAR will allow for much more developed AR experiences. Like, you'll be able to place furniture, you'll be able to transfer. It's like, when the technology comes out, those that are interested, I think, will be very, very satisfied.
Sherri, we got to leave it there. But listen, we want to let our viewers know that she'll be coming back on the monthly to give us more information, keep us technologically up to date, let us know some of the hot new things that are happening. And as we get close to those release dates, those embargo dates, and those other things, guess what? You'll be able to catch it right here on Open with ourselves. So, Sherri, thank you so much for sharing with us from Laptop Magazine. We're looking forward to a great end of 2020 and going into the new year.
You too. Thank you so much.
And thank you, Sherri. And guess what? For more information, you can always visit their website at laptopmag.com. And you can also follow them on social media at laptopmag. Well, we've come to the end of our show today. I want to thank all of our guests for joining us, but most of all, I want to thank you, the viewer, for tuning in. Now, if you missed any part of today's show, you can always catch the Recablecast on VonxNet's Channel 67. Also, if you have Verizon Fios, that'll be Channel 2133. And then anytime on the web at bronxnet.org. If you want a brand new, fresh episode of Open, well, just come on back Friday morning. My girl, Rena Valentine, will have a brand new episode for you here on BronxNet's Open Television. That about wraps up for me, Daren Jaime. For all of us here on the set of Open, saying take care, God bless. We'll catch it next week real soon.